Hello and welcome to Boom Fact Check. Demonetisation, where does it stand and what happened? Well, as you know, it was launched on November 8, 2016 with the whole objective of removing black money, and particularly the cash component of black money, and that distinction is important. Now it appears that almost 99% of that currency, according to a Reserve Bank of India report, has come back into the system. So, which begs the question, where did it go? Where was it meant to go? And what has really been the outcome and impact of the entire demonetisation exercise, at least from an economic standpoint of view? I'm joined by Vivek, Kaul, author and columnist who's been writing and speaking steadily on this subject. And what we are going to do is a primer and try and understand once again what was the objective, what really happened in terms of data and numbers, and what have we achieved and where are we standing today. Vivek, thank you very much for joining us on Fact Check. So let's go back to November 8th, right? So there was an announcement on the evening of November 8th. I was having dinner at a restaurant, and I remember actually some people putting more tips because they felt that this was a good time to start getting rid of their 500 rupee notes. So what happened since then?
So since then, almost all of us who had cash went to banks and deposited that cash. And, the RBI annual report says that of the 15.44 lakh crore which was demonetized, 15.28 lakh crore, which was 99% of the money came back. Now, the hope was that people who had black money would not deposit it because in that would
by depositing it they would be
because they would be identified by the government. So the hope was that would destroy the black money, but that did not happen. I mean, almost all the money has come back.
Okay. So now when you say 15.28 or a 15.4, now that the gap between the two, which is roughly 17,000 crores?
16,000 crores.
16,000 crores. So where is that? I mean, just to sort of, I know it's not a large amount.
I mean, some of it is in cooperative banks, which has not been taken. Some of it is probably in countries like Nepal and Bhutan. Some of it is with NRIs who couldn't come back to exchange it. And some of it is probably with our parents and grandparents and even us who forgot.
Yeah, and some of it landed up in sacks which were burnt. If you remember, there were some photographs floating around. So there is some money which didn't come back for whatever reason. But you're saying that whoever had a intent of preserving it as black or concealed
has managed to put it back into the banking system.
Right. Now, how did they do that, and why did they feel that they could get away with it?
Okay. So, I mean, this is again all anecdotal. There is no... so basically, one way that I came across was, in these small shops and enterprises where, 10 to 15 people are employed, the owners gave advance salaries. Okay, so they gave, let's say if a particular guy was paid 10,000 rupees per month, he was paid 50,000 rupees in that month and told to go deposit it into the bank, and then he would probably not be paid over the next 5 months, or it would be cut from his salary or whatever.
Yeah.
The other way was, people who did not have a large amount of cash were essentially used to sort of, put cash into the banks. So these were,
So the bet was that this money wouldn't come back, and the Reserve Bank therefore started printing fresh notes, which we are now seeing in the form of new 2,000 rupee notes and new 500 rupee notes. So the two exercises were also not necessarily parallel.
No.
Right? Because the 2,000 rupee note was planned earlier, at least conceptually, and it came late. So there is some argument that why has the Reserve Bank of India printed all these notes when all these notes were there in the system in any case?
Yes. So basically, one of the theories which was offered originally was that people tend to hold their black money in the form of cash in high denomination notes, which is correct. I mean, it would be stupid to hold black money in 10 rupee notes. I mean, that would take a lot of space.
Right.
So if you look at the British, you look at the Bank of England, the highest denomination note that is published, that is printed is 50 pounds. With the Federal Reserve, it's 100 pounds. So the original idea was that you withdraw the 500 and 1,000 rupee note so that you make it difficult for people to hold black money in the form of cash. But then why do you introduce a 2,000 rupee note, which makes it essentially
much more easier? Yeah.
So that is a question nobody really has answered from the government. I mean, and what has happened now is, if you look at the RBI annual report, as of March 31st, 50% of the money in the financial system was in the form of 2,000 rupee notes. So it becomes very difficult to carry out even simple transactions because there is not enough change going around.
Right. But so are you saying that if we started on November 8th with a certain objective, stated objective of removing cash black money from the system, we in some ways have taken a step backward because we've replaced it with 2000 and that potentially is...
No, so there was a contradiction from the very beginning in the sense that if the idea was to make it difficult to hold black money in the form of cash, you wouldn't have been introducing 2000 rupee notes and withdrawing 500 and 1000 rupee notes.
Right.
It
but
just doesn't make any
one
sense.
argument could be that the behavioral change that is caused by this action, that's November 8th, would now hopefully, at least that could have been the hope, that will sort of propel people to start putting more money in white and not hoarding money as the case was earlier.
Okay. So, if you know, the demonetization, went from 8th November. Rather, you could deposit money till December 30th. If you're a simple Indian citizen, NRIs had the privilege of depositing money till 30th June. After 30th December, the government ran another amnesty scheme which failed miserably. So if there was any behavioral change, people would have gone and admitted and told the government, we have this money and we're willing to pay fine on it. But that did not happen.
Right. Okay. Just to come back to the logistics of this all, of that 15.4 trillion notes, right? You said what is that in value terms?
That's value.
15.4, right. So if it's
in terms of volume, it is 24 billion notes, 2400 crore.
Right. So if it's if 2400 crore notes or 24 billion notes, what does it meant logistically for this to come back? I mean, the banking system obviously has shown some resilience in managing this inflow because it's way beyond what would have normally come in. So what does that tell us, if anything?
I mean, it tells us that if you make the money, useless overnight, it will all come back. I mean, there is nothing more that it tells us. I mean, yes, the banking system had to work more than they normally do, and I mean, kudos to them. But
okay, so one more question, which again has been, I guess, been posed by many people: can we trust these numbers?
I mean,
the 15.4 trillion
if
notes.
If you don't trust the RBI numbers, what else do you trust?
Right. No. To the extent that does the RBI have all the numbers it needs to, could it be likely that the RBI is missing something because for various reasons it's not been able to reconcile accounts?
I mean, that only the RBI
can say.
I have no way of.
Right. Because RBI finally depends on banks to give true and fair picture of what the accounts are.
But I mean, they have a disclaimer in the report.
They do. Right. So if we were to now look forward, there is a cash black money and there is a non-cash black money, right? So as I understand, cash black money is only about 6 to 7% of total black money.
I mean, if you look at data from the raids carried out by Income Tax Department, and this is between 2006 and 2011, which is only, I mean, this is the data available in public domain. The average across those 5 to 6 years was around 4.9%, which is 5% basically.
Right. So if we say 5%, so therefore we still have to tackle 95% of the black money problem in this country.
Exactly.
Right. And that is something that the government has said it will do through the Benami Transactions Act and through other acts. What's your reading of that so far?
I mean, see, the first thing that needs to happen is that the political funding needs to be cleaned up, which hasn't happened at all.
Okay.
I mean, why are political parties still allowed to take donation in the form of cash? I mean, it is beyond my... and then, if they take donations of less than 20,000 rupees from an individual, they don't need to declare it in the public domain.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the annual revenues of political parties and compare it with the kind of money that gets spent in elections, those numbers are very difficult to reconcile. So, so where is that money coming from? So, first and foremost, your political funding needs to be cleaned up. The second thing is to sort of start cleaning up real estate, and that has to start from changing the the change in land usage norms. So unless these two things happen, the black money problem really cannot be tackled.
Okay, so let me come back to our original objective. So one of the other points that was raised was that interest rates have come down. And that could be because of the cash flowing in. What's your sense about that? Okay,
so this is, I mean, if you follow the pink press, every time the RBI cuts interest rates, you have this huge, stories, EMIs falling, home loans become cheaper, and all that. Now, and because of demonetization, loan rates have come down. Now, I am yet to see a story anywhere in the pink press or, even in the general press, which essentially talks about the other side. Nobody can borrow unless people save. So loan rates falling first and foremost means deposit rates falling. And believe me, banks are very quick to cut deposit rates. They don't cut loan rates as faster. 62% of our household financial savings are in fixed deposits. A lot of it is essentially, senior citizens who use those fixed deposits to generate a regular income.
Right.
A lot of other money is essentially people saving to meet their goals in life, education of their children, weddings, so on and so forth. Now, when interest rates come down, it hurts these people more than it benefits people borrowing.
Right.
Number one. Second point I want to make here is, if there is this thing, the entire story about interest rates coming down and borrowing going up sounds very, very believable. It is not. If you look at the retail lending in the first 4 months of this year, it is down close to 20% from the last year, even though interest rates have come down. So what it tells you is that people borrow not when interest rates come down, but when
they need it.
No, when they need it and when they feel economically confident of being able to repay the EMI.
Yeah. And the same applies to businesses as well.
Exactly.
Right.
So that confidence has gone down dramatically after demonetization.
Right. So last point, one of the big, let's say, positioning statements was that this will bring about a cashless economy or a greater move towards cashless. I'm talking about the demonetization push. To what extent has that worked? And if you were to look at the trend of cashless over the last 1 year, what are you seeing? So
the last that I checked data, both the cashless transactions, both from the volume as well as the value point of view, were more or less back to the normal trend because they were going up irrespective of demonetization. So they were more or less back to the normal trend. So what you can say is, almost it's 9 months, 10 months after demonetization, the cashless objective, if at all there was one, because in the original speech there wasn't any mention. It came into focus only on November 27th when Prime Minister Modi elaborated on it in the Mann Ki Baat program. So cashless is also back on track. There isn't really any big gain that is happening.
Right. So if cashless didn't work, I mean, let's keep the political part aside, which of course many people are sort of stating openly now. But if you were to keep the cashless part aside, if you were to keep the, let's say, the interest rates, the black money hoarders, all that aside, what has demonetization really achieved?
So that leaves us with fake notes, and the fake note data is the best part of it. 24 billion notes were demonetized. And between April 1st, 2016 and March 31st, 2017, only 5,73,000 fake notes were culled out of the system. So which is close to 0%. I don't think demonetization achieved anything economically.
Okay. Right. So if we were to now, just to round up, so here's the opinion part, right? So we all agree that black money is a problem and we all want to do something about it. When this was announced on November 8th, I too, for instance, at least in the first few days, felt that it was a good thing because I felt that it was a strong black money counter move. So if we want to address that problem, what in your mind is the best way to do it?
The first and foremost, you have to start cleaning up political funding. And as a citizen of this country, I now need to show my Aadhaar card almost everywhere. Now, why can't political donations be linked to the Aadhaar card? I mean, very simple solution. Everyone has an Aadhaar card now.
So political is one part, but all of us in some ways are part of this whole black economy, right? Yes. I mean, so how do we?
So I mean, then you have to start cleaning up real estate. I mean, these are the two basic things. Gold. I mean, it has to be. You have to make it compulsory for people to show some sort of identification to buy gold. I mean, if Aadhaar is everywhere,
why then it should be there while buying gold as well?
Why not there as well? So yeah.
Right, Vivek. Thank you so much for joining us and taking us through. This has been an illuminating conversation. Well, that's all we have time for on Boom Fact Check. This week, we'll be back next week, same time. Thanks for watching.